One of the big things you talk about is the exploration and exploitation, and being an ambidextrous company. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, once a company becomes successful, they really focus on managing the business model that was successful, and actually that becomes, kind of the killer of any new idea, anything that looks different. So you need to deliberately put in place an exploration engine, and an exploration engine that works in partnership with the innovation engine. Because if you don't, you're just a startup in chains. So you really need a collaboration between the innovators and the executors.
And what happens if they just execute?
Well, that's what happens in most companies today, is the innovators come up with ideas, but they never really make it into the business. And often that's because the idea looks a little bit different, doesn't fit in anybody's P&L. Or because, gets killed because they're fighting for budgets. So sometimes, big innovation needs some time to succeed. And then the execution engine says, well, with the same investment, I can give you a return next year. So this is, all of the antibodies that the execution engine today kind of, and puts out there. So we need to design different type of organization that is good at both at the same time. It's not either or, it's and.
You mentioned that the CEO should have an equivalent position.
Yeah. So
controversial?
I believe that you need to give innovation power. So I like to call, the chief entrepreneur the person responsible for creating new growth engines. And the chief entrepreneur should have as much power as the CEO. They should be at the same level, because otherwise the current business will always win. So what you really want is to give innovation power and at the highest level of the organization. And that means, time, money, etc., but also different set of metrics, different culture, and a different executive team that you need in both areas.
If people don't measure innovation, does it happen?
So actually, innovation, what you need to measure is, are you de-risking ideas? So what's most important is the metrics in execution and the metrics in innovation are different. So you need to make sure you're looking at teams in a different way. Somebody who's building a new supply chain, a new warehouse, should be measured differently than a team that is trying to build the next growth engine. Because inevitably, they're going to fail. If they're looking at something new, how could you figure out, nobody's been in the future, so you need to measure them differently. You need to give them metrics that allow them to experiment so they're not punished, so they don't punish their career.
Yeah, the companies that don't tolerate failure, we all like to talk about failure, but no one wants to be the sucker at the end of it. Failure is such an important part of it.
I think, I like role models like Jeff Bezos, where he says, Amazon is the best place in the world to fail. If that message comes from the very top, imagine a CEO telling that to shareholders. If you don't have that, symbolic value, and then the metrics and culture in place to actually live that, it's never going to happen. Innovation is not going to happen. You can talk about innovation at the top level, but if you don't put in place the right culture, and that does start with allowing failure to happen for new ideas. If you don't do that, it's not going to happen.
In your opinion, who are the current leaders, and how long will they hang in there for?
It's those companies who use innovation, the gold standard of innovation. That means you invest in many projects, small amounts of money, and then after 3 to 4 months, you make follow-up investments in those teams that show success. And you do that 3-4 times. You invest like venture capitalists in new ideas. And there are companies who do that. So obviously Amazon is the known one, but I'm seeing other companies, traditional ones like Bayer or Bosch emerging, that are doing that same logic. Invest in many teams and then follow-up investments in those teams that show some signs of success until they have a winner that emerges.